Hello everyone, to those just joining, to those who have been waiting, to everyone watching things back on the VOD, either here on Twitch or on YouTube, depending on when you're watching it. Hello! Welcome to another stream and welcome to another game dev stream. I had been debating whether or not to do this again after Friday's stream, but I thought, you know what? The Bullet Hell Game Jam is ongoing. I'm wanting to do bits of work on that, and since I've been doing a little bit today, in between trying to do some drawing, trying to draw emotes and whatnot, I thought I may as well stream this, at least probably for a little while. I'm not too sure if I'll stay on this for the entire stream, but definitely for at least a good portion of time during stream today, and if I feel like it, I'll jump onto something else. Though, depending on how lost in the programming source I get, that would probably be unlikely. It kept happening today and yesterday as well when I was doing work on this, because I started doing my work bits on the jam yesterday, and in the process of doing so, I like, fun little story. Normally I would just announce to friends and whatnot when I hop into a VC, but for some baffling reason, I got so lost in doing the work for the jam that I had been sat there in a VC for like a few hours, and then I said, oh wait, I should probably tell them I'm here. And then I said, yeah, I've kind of been here for a few hours, but I got so lost in the programming source that I just kind of forgot to say anything. But yeah, I'm having a fair bit of fun working on this jam so far. I'm doing like the programming side for the fundamentals at the very least for now, and I'm working with a group. The group is like handling like the level design and the models and animations and stuff, so I'm not having to fret about any of that. My main priority is just getting on with the programming, making sure like the player stuff is done, making sure that there is at least a little baseline for the enemy and stuff, because this is my first time ever making a bullet hell. And I know of the basics. Normally you're just like in an environment or something, you're moving through a level, you're trying to avoid God knows how much from like enemies around you, and we're trying to do a little bit of a spin on it, because the theme of the Bullet Hell Jam is consequences, and we're trying to sort of do it in a somewhat different way than a lot of people would probably expect. So yeah, that's what I'm focusing on. But in between that and, well, literally everything else, if you were here during the last game dev stream, then you probably know that I just decided to get into the spirit of doing little sketch bits whilst waiting for code to compile, and I think I may as well just put music on. I'm doing something different for music today. I'm gonna do Pokemon music for like a little bit, if that's coming through. Yep, that's coming through. Pokemon Black and White music, to be precise. I may adjust the volume on that as well, just so it's a little bit quieter. I accidentally moved it loud again. I think it's just all the relaxing songs. Anyway, I'm gonna get that thing open on Clip Studio again, because can't remember what I named this file. I have lost it. I've lost where that thing is. That sucks. But in terms of other stuff I've been working on, I may as well open these up in Clip before so I can show what I've been doing throughout the day, and also like yesterday, and where is it? There it is. Right. So since like February or definitely February. It was more so since February. I have had like some like concepts for emotes in mind, Clip Studio should be open, and I hadn't had the time to get around to sort of actually drawing them until now because, well, life. But I have one of the emotes here, which is, I called it DSTL 1 hype because that's for tier 1 subs, and I liked how I did with this a lot because I don't know if it's like the shading or the colors of the line art or how neat things look or the fact that I actually managed to put clothing folds into like the clothing on the emote. But I think I did pretty well with this and I'm happy with it. And then the other one is DSL 1T. And I thought of a very funny way of doing this. Originally it was just gonna be me just sipping like just a regular cup of tea, but then I thought, you know what, that's boring. That's just bog standard. Why don't I do something fun with this? So me, not having gotten any sleep or drunk any tea, is now just holding a huge cup of tea over his head. He is desperate, and he is absolutely just in an absolute shambles. I like this one a lot. I loved this idea since I first like sort of workshopped it like 3 months ago. Yeah, it works. It just works. I love it a lot. Like, both of them, I put a lot of effort into both of these ones, and I'm pretty happy with it. Like going over the first proper tier 1 emote that I made, which was this one, like, it's okay, but I feel like there was, like, more effort I could have put into it way back when. I may go over it again, redraw it, especially with now, like, how I do things, in terms of, like, the line art and the shading and everything. So, you know what, definitely gonna revisit it, but for now, that's gonna remain until I can find the time and patience to redraw it. In terms of when those will be active for tier 1 subs, for some reason Twitch is just doing its funny thing and taking a while to, like, approve them. Which is kind of funny considering the fact that when I uploaded the T1 yesterday, it was initially approved instantly, but I think because I kept pulling it off and re-uploading because I was trying to adjust the size because for some reason it was looking a little bit too small, I think now Twitch is like, yeah, you've been doing this a bit too much, let's just wait. I don't want to wait. I want my emotes to be available, or if people ever give a tier 1 sub. In terms of tier 2 subs, I'm not too sure. I'm just kind of holding off on that until I feel like there's a need or the necessity arises, but I'm happy with those for now. But yeah, enough of that, because I'm going to keep Clip Studio open just for the sake of it, because, you know, I'm probably going to, like, if I feel like it, just either doodle what I'm planning out, or if I need to explain something, then I'll just do it that way, because I like doing things like that. But in terms of what I've gotten done so far for this game jam, I haven't done anything on the enemy side yet, or the, like, obstacle or whatever side yet, because I've mainly been focusing on getting the player ready. And the reason for that is because there is something specific that we're doing for the player in terms of this, that we decided, you know what, this will be our consequences as per the theme of the jam. So, something I'm doing different, I'm constraining the player to, like, you know, 3D environment, but 2D plane. So I'm constraining the player like this. I don't have, like, a smooth rotation for swapping from one end to another yet, because how I would normally do it in, like, a 3D, like, space is that there is a setting that just orients the character's rotation to the movement. And at the moment, I don't have that enabled, because if I was to go up, then it would just have the character rotate to either face towards or away from the screen. And I don't want that to happen, especially, like, here. So I'm doing that. And there's a blue cube here, and if you're wondering why this is here, if I press, at the moment it's the Q key, if I press this, then we take control, the player disappears, and we're able to sort of drive this thing around. Also floating in the air, because we're doing like a sort of floating 2D sort of game. And if I hop out by pressing Q, then I'll be right here on top, like, because there is like an invisible thing on the top of this thing here, on the top of this cube, that basically says, yeah, so when the player hops out, just move them here when they reappear. And that works perfectly. And another thing is this little white box here that I'm using to test, like, interactable objects. It does work. Thank God. It took me a while to get this to properly work, because the way I was handling it is that, and this is to explain the thing, so if I'd probably just open a new project in Clip Studio just so I can illustrate things. I'll just get another random sheet, 1920 by 1080, and we swap over to Studio on here. Right, so basically, I don't want it to be like that color for the pencil, so I'm going to use the thing for my line art. So in terms of like how I would want the player to interact with an object, I don't want it to be like, oh, check like if, say, it's a box, and then have whatever happens here, and then if this is a door, and then have it interact here, la-di-da-di-da. Because that would just mean I'd have to do something for every option. It would essentially mean that every option looks like this. And while that would be okay for like a small number of items, if it turns out you just have so many items, so many things that you're trying to check for when you interact with them, it's very inefficient, it bloats the code, and you're just... It looks untidy, it looks messy, it looks horrible. So the better way of doing it is using a thing called an interface. And I've probably explained this on the previous game dev stream for like people who were watching like a month or so ago. But basically what an interface is that it basically defines like, let me think. So I'll just write the term here, an interface. Not like a user interface that you'd have like the HUD and stuff on or anything. No, that's not it. An interface is basically, hey, we have this little thing that you extend. So say, for example, I hit interface, because that's how you would denote an interface class, is like the I at the start of the name is just I for interface. And in the interface, you basically define what methods or functionality it could have. So, for example, I'll just sketch out like the void return type, just because it's the whole, oh, this is not returning anything anyway. But say hit or something better in the hit interface's case, because you'd be using this if you were to use this when like you hit something, and it would actually be processing the hit. So I just wrote the same thing out again. So you'd say void receive hit, and that would be you're saying what it is, but you're not saying what it does, because in each thing that extends it or inherits from it, so say for example the player class, so they're a character, or they extend from the character class, but they also extend from the iHit interface. So what that means is that while it's not explicitly this, because I don't think, like, aside from like having another interface inherit from an interface, you can't exactly just have like another object just be an interface. You can only have it like receive the functionality from the interface. So when an object is like also using this interface, they can have their own version of the method defined, but you say la-di-da-di-da, receive hit, and then implementation, and when you call like the method receive hit or receive hit implementation, you're calling that specific version on like that specific object or class, rather than just having a thing that checks like for literally everything. Depending on like, Because if you were checking for everything, you'd define literally everything that happens for every other or every instance of an object that you're trying to sort of interact with. You'd say, oh, this box, if it's a box, then it will do this. If it's a door, then it will do that. If it's, say, a lever, it will do this and that and that and that. And that's just, ugh. So what an interface basically does is like, oh, you can have the name of the function, but what exactly the function does is dependent on what you're doing with that object. You're not saying, oh, every single object that inherits from like or uses this interface does the same thing with that interface method. It's the same name, but every single one just does something different depending on what you need it to do, and it's very helpful. So that out of the way, I feel like this was still a very long explanation, and people may not have understood. And I apologize for that. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to explain things without being too five-head about it. So basically, I'm using interfaces to make it so that if I had like an interactable object that's like a button or a lever or anything, like it can check and say, oh yeah, this does this thing here, but then, or this thing does implement the interface, but what it actually does with that is dependent on how it's implemented in a specific object. And that's what I've gotten done so far. I've gotten like the player hopping into the mech, moving around the mech, because this is going to be a mech, and being able to interact with this object here, or objects like this that implement the interactable interface. So that's what I've gotten done. In terms of what I'm going to get done this stream, because I do realize that a good chunk of the start of the stream was me rambling on about what things do and how things work, and also I realize there's bots in chat, or not directly in chat, but there's bots again every single time, and it upsets me. And there's another bot following me on Twitter, because that just doesn't stop. It's like, why? It's looking at bot accounts on Twitter and thinking, why is this your profile picture when your banner picture is completely different from how that looks? That doesn't seem right. So, you know what? There we go. Right. Okay. So, in terms of what we're going to get done today, I'm going to try and sort of tweak some things that are happening with the player right now, or more specifically, things that are happening with the player and the mech interaction, because I don't know if this is like expressly a requirement that we outlined for the player getting out of the mech, but one thing that we thought about was having so that when the player hops out of the mech, they're sort of launched away. And at the moment, I don't have that entirely implemented. What I want is... Right, so what I want is, if I go into Clip Studio again, I'm just gonna erase what I've already sketched out here, because this is essentially just a whiteboard in school. I'm just writing things, rubbing things off, writing things on here, and then just rubbing it out again, because I'm constantly replacing it with different points and different ideas and different things I'm talking about. So what I want is that, so for example, the player is in the mech. I'm just going to sketch a thing that looks like a robot, because this is only for like a diagram. So although why I'm putting a bit of effort into how the legs look here, I have no idea. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm on the drawing bug from having drawn emotes like 2 days in a row. But, so, say for the sake of argument, this is the mech. So, we'll write mech here. And what I want is when the player presses like the eject button, so that will also be Q. Made the like get in the mech and also get out of the mech button the same, because, you know, consistency is very nice. When I press that, I want to essentially record like what is currently being held down, as in like sort of like directional values. So say like if it's like for example the W and D keys, then Babadaboopy, hello Heater. I am illustrating a thing for the project that I'm working on for the Bullet Hell Jam. So if I go back into Unreal quickly before I continue explaining things, at the moment, because I've constrained things to 2D, I don't have like a solid rotation for the player yet. I'm gonna probably sort that out this stream, because it'll, yeah. But so the player can move up and down, left and right in a sort of floating manner, because we're making like a flying 2D-esque game. For the Bullet Hell Jam, the player can hop into a mech, which they can sort of pilot around. When they hop out, they can they reappear where the mech is, and there is like an object here that they can interact with. At the moment, it doesn't necessarily do anything. I just have it saying like hello on the screen just for the testing purposes. Also, hello! So that's what I have in terms of functionality. I'm probably going to work on enemies and stuff as well during this stream. But to illustrate what I want to do for like the player getting out, because at the moment they just kind of get out. They just get out of the mech. And I feel like there's two things I could do here. I could just have like this functionality just be the default, or have it differ depending on whether or not they're currently moving. So for the sake of argument, let's say that this thing is the mech, and when they press the Q key, which is the eject button, I want to check basically what direction they're holding at the moment. So for example, say they're holding the W and D keys, it would be easy to assume that like, oh hey, they're currently moving like this direction, like to like diagonally upward to the right, right? And what I want to have happen, I may as well draw a cube so it's not like I'm drawing like an arrow going here, because that's not where I want my diagram to go. But let's just say like this is where it's currently moving to. And when the player ejects, like, sure, the mech will be here. And again, I'm for some reason putting effort into this little diagram mech. Like, it's good that I'm putting effort into, like, sketching the diagrams, because I'm trying to put things into more practice again. But, say that, like, after they get out, instead of just, just being stood here, like, that's not what I want. Instead, what I want is when the player gets out of the mech, I want them to be kind of launched. In that direction when they hop out. So we have the mech, we press eject, we check what direction we're holding. So for example, we're moving like towards the top right. Instead of like having them just emerge at the top of the mech, like I want it to do that. Yeah, like an actual ejection. I want it to just push the player out. I also want to add some like little dust clouds, because I like adding little details to my sketches. Oh god damn it, why is it the sad song from Black and White? I swear to god. But yeah, that's what I want it to do. I just wanted the relaxing music from Pokemon Black and White, because I wanted to do something different this time. But this one's the actual, literal, sad song from the game. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, that's basically what I aim to do with that. And to be fair, now that I've kind of sketched it out, it's a bit clearer to me. It's clearer to me trying to sort of work out how I go about this. Because it's similar to something that I would have done programming in Unity when I was trying to say, oh, we're going to keep track of the previous direction the player was moving in. So when, like, they stop moving, or they change direction, or they start moving again from a standstill, they know what direction to flip the sprite in and whatnot. Because that's how I would have done things in Unity in 2D. And I think I also did it when I was trying to remake that one project in Unreal using, like, the 2D sprite stuff. But I'm going to take that logic and I'm going to sort of just reuse it here. So we can sort of keep track of, like, oh, this is what we're setting it to for, like, the movement, and depending on what it is at the moment when they eject, we'll either just throw them out, like, just put them on the top, or when we eject them, if they're moving, then we'll just launch them. I don't know how well launching will work for the player in, like, how... Yeah, I love... Yeah, the song, Drifel, but, immediately distracted, but you know what I mean. If they're moving, they'll be launched. If they're not, they'll just emerge at the top. Yeah, this is from Pokemon! Yeah, from Pokemon Black and White! I find it funny that so many people are like, oh, it's the Toothless Dance music. No, it's not! It's Driftvale City from Pokemon Black and White! And you all upset me by saying it's the Toothless Dancing music. No, it fucking isn't. Cultured people know what it's from. Yeah, but rant aside, banger of a song. You don't... To be fair, you get a pass. You don't even know it from that Toothless Dance meme. You didn't even know... I don't... But rant aside, banger of a song, love it so much. One of the songs from Black and White that sticks into my head. Aside from, like, a few others, but... Yeah, probably a meme, though, yeah. Right. But yeah, so we have the plan in place. I'm gonna hop over to Ryder, because we're gonna have to work on this from here. I don't know why it's saying ID is detected. It might severely degrade IDE performance. To the Defender folder. Updating Microsoft Defender configuration. Oh, yep, there we go. Project Paths was successfully added to the Microsoft Defender list. Yippee! Yippee! Right, so in terms of, like, at the moment, like, for the move method, basically kind of the same thing as how I would have had the movement done for the other project, was the prototype that I have been developing. Aside from some slight changes to make things work for the 2D movement. In terms of, like, because at the moment, like, this is saying, oh, input direction has been recorded and so on and so forth, but at the moment, there's no actual thing kind of recording how this is, like, storing it permanently or semi-permanently outside of where this thing is defined. And while I could just basically say, oh, instead of having this be a local variable, I will just have it, you know, be defined as just a regular variable and it's just available throughout. I don't want that. And then no, it's kind of pointless just having a separate f vector 2D just for the sake of storing things. But I'm doing this just because, though I will probably also give this visible anywhere, so I can at least see it in the editor. F vector 2D, and then say previous input direction, and this will basically just store the previous input direction. And I'm gonna have, like, at the bottom here, store previous input direction equals input direction. So before doing anything else, I'm going to compile, and I'm hoping this doesn't take too long considering the fact that this is literally just like the smallest change to the header file and to like this method right here. But knowing Unreal and C++ and how things like to take a long time when compiling code, we're probably going to be waiting a little bit. But what I'm hoping to see by testing this now, like rather than just like going through everything, compiling it, and then being like, oh, this isn't working properly, I want to double check that when I'm basically just like moving or not moving, I want to see if things update properly. So that in case I decide to press the eject button when the player is not moving, it doesn't just like remember the last direction they were moving in and then just eject them and launch them. I still want it to be able to just kind of like reset itself, if that makes sense. And if that doesn't work, then I may need to look into having something happen when the input for movement stops, and then just do things that way. Also, I realize that I'm doing this in the player character script, and I should be doing it in the mech script, but whoops. This is what happens when I get so lost explaining things. I just tend to forget where I'm putting things, and then I realize, wait, this is in the wrong place. Right, so while we wait for that, just so we're not like, you know, doing it's building 7 actions. Oh god, jeez. Gonna go into Clip Studio again, and you know what? I'll open another empty canvas just so I have things separate, because I want to keep that there for now before I, you know, get rid of it, replace it with something entirely, or something else entirely, is what I mean. But at the moment, like, we have the player movement, we have the ability to enter the mech, we can move around in the mech, we can eject, you know, aside from the whole launching thing. We have the ability to interact with objects. The next main priority is doing enemies, and at the moment, what we have planned, just for the sake of not, you know, letting scope creep get the better of us in this group that I'm working in, is to have, like, basically, like, a blueprint, sort of, like, so say a blueprint bullet class, so like just basically a main bullet class that I guess has like damage and speed and all that jazz, and then whatever we decide to make in terms of variants for bullets, we could just sort of extrapolate from there, like say have like a bullet that splits into other bullets on hit, or I'm not entirely sure, but but I guess that's one possible variant, like having a bullet that either splits into other ones on hit or after a few seconds, which I feel like would be the likely case. That makes the most sense. You wouldn't, like, get hit, have it split into multiple bullets, and then get hit again. Though that would require, like, a different type of bullet that sort of gets spawned by this thing as soon as it detonates. And then I don't know what else I could say in terms of bullets, like a sort of slow-moving one or a boomerang that sort of moves and then comes back, or I don't know in terms of bullets. But definitely in terms of enemies, we had already sort of gone over what we would want in terms of like some enemy or obstacle things. We'd want like a turret sort of enemy that like remains in place but angles itself towards the player. So for example, like say this is a turret and say that this line coming from it is like the sort of line of sight to the player. And like after a few seconds of like aiming at the player, like it'll probably have a radius that it affects the player in. It will just shoot at the player. And then the other one would be like a just a regular patrolling enemy that would move back and forth. So from point A to point B, and as they're moving back and forth, they just kind of spray and pray bullets like rapidly in a circle. We're not going to have like a patrolling enemy that just angles towards the player, because I feel like, unless we are, I'm not too sure, but we're not going to do that yet. We're going to have the turrets that stand still, and we're going to have the patrolling enemies that move back and forth or move around and then spray and pray and just do things. But of course, once we have like our main enemy types, then we're just going to make variants of these enemies that do different things. I hope. That's what I'm hoping for, eventually. And aside from that, I never actually properly explained the whole purpose of like the player jumping into the mech. So, for this bullet hell, for this project, I guess normally in bullet hells you would be fighting back, you would be like trying to avoid things, but also fight back as well. I haven't played too many bullet hells personally, and no, not every bullet hell is Toho. You know who you are. Not every bullet hell is Toho. You know who you are. No, it's not. But, yeah, oh yeah, no, now I remember, I almost lost my point. I almost lost my point. So, in this project, you won't be fighting back against, so, like, I'm just gonna draw, like, the mech as I did in the other diagram again, because I guess I'm kind of, attached to how I draw the mech now. This kind of makes me think of MODOK for some reason. I accidentally made like a box version of MODOK. But aside from that, like the player would be moving around in their mech, la-di-da-di-da, they'd be able to sort of, like... Why was I drawing an arrow? So, like, they're moving around in the mech. They're able, like, as they would normally move around outside in the mech, they can move around, they can... like avoid things, but the trade-off is that they can move in the mech faster than they can on the on their own because of all the propulsion and whatnot, and they can take multiple hits. Whereas the player on their own, I'm just gonna do a little guy here, you know, like they move around slower, and they can only take like a small number of hits before they die. But the whole point is that if you're in the mech, like, this is going to be, like, puzzle-oriented as well. If you're in the mech, there will be some places that you cannot reach, and you'll be forced to sort of hop out and to solve these puzzles by jumping out of the mech, going through, and doing whatever needs to be done in there. So the consequences is that if you're in the mech, you're more durable, you can move around faster, but you can't easily solve puzzles that are in the more sort of tightly enclosed spaces. And the consequences for just moving around on your own as the player is that you can move around inside those smaller spaces, you can solve those puzzles, but you're very fragile. You are basically just easy pickings. And that's the whole theme of the game jam. The Bullet Hell Jam's theme is consequences, and the way we interpreted it, or the way we decided it upon it in the end was, like, we'll have, like, the player, like, have this sort of system with the mech, and how things differ being in and out of the mech will be what we consider our consequences for the player. There may be more consequences that we come up with for, like the actual level design or the enemies or so on, but for now, that's like our main jump-off point. And to be fair, like, working out this stuff took a little bit of time, but we kind of got there in the end, and I actually contributed like a little bit to trying to come up with these ideas. There was some ideas I was throwing out that, like, some of them weren't, like, really explored, but some of them were sort of helping build, like, put the pieces together for what we wanted to do for this project. So I did, in a way, help with, like, designing things, but not directly, but sort of putting the plans into action, if that makes sense. And this is another one of the emotional songs from Pokemon Black and White. This is at the end of the game. Like, goddamn. Oh, gosh. Oh, it's almost finished compiling, but it's still taking a little bit of time. But, like, that's basically the whole dealio with the mech, what it's doing and what we have, like, in terms of, like, the whole risk rewards and consequences of, like, being in the mech or being outside of it. I'm not too sure if this is the case, but in terms of the mech, it can also be used as cover in a way. But of course, we're gonna have, like, points where the mech can, like, respawn if it's destroyed. Because I think that was one thing we talked about. I think one thing we talked about was, like, what happens if the mech is destroyed? What happens? And we're going to have, like, a sort of checkpointing system that basically, wherever the player last crosses is where, like, a mech would respawn, basically. And that's how we're going about things. But it would require them to slowly waddle on back to where they last checkpointed, and then there's the risk of dying along the way to get back into the mech. So there's some pressure we're putting on the player, like, in terms of trying to solve puzzles while they have, like, all this stuff going on around them. And if they lose the mech, then they have to try and find a safe way back to get another one, and so on and so forth. And I like the challenge that it presents. It may not be like other conventional bullet hells, but it's different. It's something different, and I feel like this is a good chance for me to try and learn a whole lot more in terms of, like, how to implement things, or what I can actually do. So, and I think, like, being quite honest, for the longest time, I had basically burnt myself out a lot for the development project, and for the whole process of trying to learn things for development, because of how much I was rushing things. And I don't normally talk about this stuff on stream because, you know, normally I don't think too much about it. But, like, I made myself dislike the whole process of learning how to do these different things, and it's sad, because that's the whole point of, like, or the one thing I really enjoyed about development was learning all of these different things. Not the one thing, like, it's not the only thing, but it was one of the main things that I enjoyed. So, this game jam is honestly just a good opportunity for me to just have fun with this kind of stuff again. And I am enjoying doing these different things, like having like the piloting mech and trying to test all of this out and trying to find a good way to sort of work the like mech respawn system and have how the enemies are going to fire their bullets and like how quickly they do things and all that jazz. And there's just quite a bit to consider, and I am just, it's like there's ideas I get to explore here that I haven't really been able to for a long time. So it's a good chance. It's a good chance for me. Man, this is still taking some time. Why do you take so long? I don't know if it's like the first compile of opening the engine again, because I had it closed for a little while doing a Binding of Isaac run before stream, because I thought, you know what? Before I just have stream and just like get back to working on this, I'm just going to like do 1 or 2 quick runs, and I managed to do a big run of things. A pretty good run. It was a Mega Satan run too. I wasn't expecting things to go so well, but yeah, that run popped off, and I managed to get it done just before I had to prep everything for stream today. The fuck am I looking at? So, while I'm, like, thinking of how to, like, illustrate things in Clip Studio, and while I'm waiting for the code to compile, because, you know, this is taking its time now, you know, I'm looking on Twitter, as you do, and sometimes you get the most odd-looking ads for things, and I don't know what compels the algorithm to be like, hey, you may be interested in this, buddy. Hey, buddy. But, for some reason, I've gotten an ad for the Conqueror Virtual Challenges, and I'd never seen this before. And it probably won't... Oh, the build finished, thank God. But I don't know why, like, probably because, you know, British, and, you know, this exists in England. But for some reason, there is this virtual challenge where you have to walk from Wallsend, like, all the way to Bowness on Solway, across the north of England, basically to, like, Hadrian's Wall, over 145 kilometers? Why? Why is this a thing you have? And who would walk 145 kilometers? I would fucking die if I tried to walk that far. I know there's probably people who do that for a living, and, you know, mad respect to them for being able to do that for, like, a long period of time without just exploding, but I could not. I literally could not. Do, 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 do. Don't mind me, right. It's all compiled now. Right, back to the editor. There we go, perfect. Right, so what I was checking, at the very least on the player, I had meant to put it on the mech, but I put it on the player by accident. Whoops. So BP player 0, we're going to find previous input direction. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that it doesn't reset the previous input direction when letting go. So, you know, testing this first was a good idea. So what I want, I'm gonna have to go back into the code for this now. I really wish I had a Stream Deck for this kind of stuff, because it would make it so much easier just to like be able to possibly switch like windows in OBS at the click of a button, just like that, rather than having to just go into OBS and then switch scenes that way. I don't know if that's what a Stream Deck, God, but I don't know if that's what a Stream Deck can do. I don't have one. Yes, I guess I'd ask Luna about it, because she has one? Yeah, she does. But I would have to probably ask if that's a thing that it does, because if it does do that, then that would be super helpful for me. Because then I wouldn't have to fumble about with that kind of stuff too much, unless I was actively... if you can use Stream Deck to switch scenes in OBS, because or at the very least, I feel like needing a second monitor would be very helpful for just, like, hopping on over to swap scenes rather than just minimizing reopening stuff. Oh, you can? Oh! Then I really need to save up for one when I can, because that would be super bloody helpful. But yeah, so now that I realize that it's not resetting that thing, the previous input direction, I'm going to move it over to the player mech. I may as well close the engine so I can get that ready for compiling. And then in the move, where's mech move? I'll just do this thing. Just input. Its previous input direction equals input direction. Right, input direction. And then now I need another method. A U. Like, I'm just assuming it has to have the U function macro, because a lot of the time, if it's like, oh, an overlap event, then you need to have it be a U function, otherwise it just doesn't work. Void mech move end. So mech move end. Oops. Yep, generate definition. Then previous input direction equals effective to be. And that just resets it to 0. And then at the bottom here, go to mech move. I'm just gonna have these bunched together, like categorized, because I'm a bit of a neat freak when it comes to like having related things next to one another. So mech move action, E trigger event. So would it be completed or cancelled? I have no idea. This and a RC player mech move end, and I may be entirely wrong about this. So compile. And now it's building 8 actions, probably because I added a new method and did all this. At the very least, it shouldn't be taking as long. But yeah, no. Having that ad appear on my Twitter is weird. I am not interested in walking across northern England over 145, like walking 140 kilometers just just to say that I did it. I mean, maybe if you do that stuff, then mad respect to you, but I couldn't do it because that would kill me. There we go. That didn't take nearly as long. That's nice. Always love when that happens. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Do, do. Do, do. Do, do. Do, do, do. Right, there we go. So, I put this on the mech, so I'll need to keep my eye on the mech this time. Play mech. So, previous input direction is currently... Okay, so it's not that. It's not cancelled. So, I think it might be completed. And I may as well just hop this over to OBS, onto Rider, just so I am not leaving it completely blank. Just gonna give it a moment, and then I'll... Because I feel like previously, when I've just instantly hit compile after letting the engine close, or I just feel like it's been one of the main causes of it taking so long. So... See, that was an instant, because it was only a minor change. So, I love when that happens. And once again, we're going to keep an eye on the map. Just to double check. Clear mech. I did not. Right. There we go. And I don't know if you can see it, but where it says pre... Oh, wait. Did I... I did not. Right. Whoops. So, I don't know if you can see where it says previous input direction, but you can see, like, the values being adjusted when I'm moving, and then when I stop moving, they reset to 0. Which is exactly what I want to happen for the sake of, like, having this system. I'm gonna quickly go to the bathroom because well, of course I need to go. But I will be right back. I won't be too long. I'll just leave things here for the time being. So, yeah, I won't be too long. I'll be right back. Stay chill until then, I guess. And I'm back. I really should have put this on the be right back screen instead of just leaving it here. I realized that was kind of a mistake on my part, but oh well. No, now for the future, that, or really for the past, because I normally do that. So, oh yeah, so because that's working, that basically forms the basis of, you know, being able to launch the player when they're ejecting. So, I'm going to hop on back into Rider, and I'm gonna close the engine. And now, so at the moment, like, at the moment in the eject mech, like, there's all this stuff like checking for the player controller, removing, like, the mech's mapping context so that we don't, like, get input for the mech when we're moving around as the player and whatnot, and all this jazz. This is all technical stuff, sorting things out and repossessing the player with the controller. What I want to do now is just quickly add void handle ejection launch. And that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it handle ejection launch, because we're basically handling whether or not we're going to launch the player when we eject them. So, what we want to happen is, like, so, let me think. Yeah, no, now I remember. So if previous input direction is not equal to effector 2D 0, so we're basically checking if this is, so if like our previous input direction is just not 0, 0, then we'll just say to do launch player else player on top of net. And that's basically what I want to happen. But I want it to check first. Alright, so if so instead of being here, oh wait, no, actually, good point. So I just realized something that I could do here, and I don't think I'll just forward declare it up here so it's like easier to keep track of. ARC underscore character. And if people want me to explain what I just said in terms of like forward declaration, because I do it a lot, like have these either up here or like in here where it says class in front of it, and I've never properly explained what that is, how it works and all that. So like if anyone wants me to explain that, even if it seems like a bit of a complicated thing, I can do that, and I don't mind explaining how that works. Also, the Pokemon music just ended, and that's sad. So I'm going to find something else. You know, if anyone has any recommendations for music, like ambient music that I can listen to whilst I get on with this, then please go ahead and throw them out there. Because like, it's fine me just sort of fishing things out, but at the same time, I get the feeling, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. Oh, good fucking god, there is a video that's 5 hours, and it's just Professor Layton music. If, we've got ads. Hold on. They're unskippables. It's an unskippable 20-second ad. Like, this is not on stream at the moment, but, you know, I'm just waiting for the video to load to just have the music there, and it's just joy. Oh wait, I can skip this one. Thank you, Adobe, for having a thing I can skip. There we go. And I know that's gonna make you happy here. But yeah, like, if people want me to explain what forward declaration is in programming stuff, then I can do that. I'm gonna say class ARC. Oh, no, wait, no, I already forward declared it. Character, pointer, player. Because then it saves the whole faff of trying to sort of reconfigure things, and then I need to say ARC underscore character pointer player, just so that the function signature is all matching the definition. So I'm gonna check if player is not equal is not equal to null pointer. Then I don't want this method to happen at all, because if this is null, then I don't want to do anything with, like, launching a player if the player doesn't exist. So, and I know it already checks up here if the player character exists by just getting an actor of that class, but more than anything, I'm just doing this just to be safe, because I'm paranoid. So, I still want this to happen. Oh yeah, I realized I have this happening twice. Because I was wondering what the hell was going on. Right. I only need one of these, so I'll get rid of that. Yep, just checking. Right. So handle ejection launch, player character. Oh. Cast a RC underscore character. Character. So that casts the player character in there. And then, oh yeah, no, this is actually making sure that it is a player character class. So that's pretty good. So we're checking... Oh wait, no, it already basically places the player on top of the mech anyway, so... What I want is to... I don't need that. I don't really... To be fair, this is for the sake of checking, so I'll just have this here just to check. YE log, UE log, that's what I meant to type. Log temp, warning, text, and then say player is not being launched. You know, just as like a test phrase, as a test statement, just to make sure. So what I want to check here is first I'm going to have another UE log just to print another log statement, just to say that the player is being launched. Warning, text. And I want to make sure that this is working in terms of whether the check succeeds or doesn't succeed, or if the check even happens at all, before I actually put in the whole logic of launching. Oh, wait, no, I did not mean to do that. I clicked debug. I meant to click play, not debug. Ugh, gosh. Well, mistakes are made. And I know that this is going to take quite some time. Because, you know, as it does. Or maybe not, actually. I mean, I've had times where I've been trying to, like, get the programming stuff done, and it's taken so long to compile that... Oh, damn, it's... Is it opening the project? Is it because I've got the Professor Layton music out now, and you're just right there? Oh no, it's still opening the project. There we go. I'm feeling it here. Also, it's kind of sad that I haven't actually managed to get around to doing editing stuff yet, but that's perfectly fine as well. Because I always have tomorrow or the day after to find the time to try and practice editing with the Gungeon stream and turn that into a video. Though I'm still unsure on what to do for that. But I'm certain I'll figure it out, maybe. But oh wait, no, I want the output log to be here, so... Oh wait, no, sorry, so the check is player is not being launched. So if I was to say, yeah, player is being launched. Okay, the check is working. Though I definitely feel like for when it launches the player, like, I would need to have it ignore the mech. Or have the player collision, yeah, have the player collision ignore the mech, and then, you know, re-enable it like a few seconds after. I can figure something out for that, because, well, that would be awkward otherwise. So that check works. It can actually tell whether or not the player is moving and whether it should or shouldn't be launched by that. So that's good. What I want to do now, I also realized I didn't show it off in the engine, and whoops! I swear, I get so lost in doing things that I just occasionally forget to make the changes that need to be made, and it's kind of silly of me, but it's, you know, it's all good fun. You know, I'm, at the very least, you can tell by my reaction that this is working. This is working, so... what I need to do now is I need to essentially... If I break this down in Clip Studio. So I'm going to get rid of this diagram now in Clip Studio. I may as well switch over to Clip Studio as well before I forget. Like, damn it. I don't want to forget again. So I'm going to get the big rubber and I'm going to rub it all out. Don't. But I'm going to get rid of all of that. And I'm going to start off with a nice clean slate. So in terms of what I want to happen here is first, like, so first we have the player. Like, we already have the player in the code, like, in that method, because we can actually, because you're downloading the files from the internet, Tom. I'm going to get a virus, Tom. Why? What are you doing? But yeah, so we have the player that's already being stored in the code. Oh, Oh. Oh. So you're downloading the thing that not every bullet hell is. You're downloading the thing that not every bullet hell needs to be. The original one for Windows 98. Jesus fuck. But yeah, so we have the player stored in code. We've already done that. So we've already gotten the player because that method is running. Otherwise, if we didn't have like a valid player, then that method wouldn't be running at all. We wouldn't be getting the check. We wouldn't be getting anything. So we move on from like getting that player. We get their character movement component. And I'm going to draw this as a circle just for the sake of illustrating. And the character movement component basically controls like velocity, gravity, and a whole bunch of other stuff. That's what the character movement component does on a character, on like something deriving from the character class. The mech doesn't have that, but I assigned it a floating pawn component, so that allows it to move around and float around and all that jazz. What we want to do with the character movement component is that we call launch from its character movement component. So from component, we call launch, and launch takes like a launch velocity. So if I say right here, launch velocity, and what we want like a launch force, like variable, so launch force, but at the same time, we want to take the values here, so launch force, multiply that by the input direction, and possibly by like their forward rotation. Or actually the forward rotation would probably be better. Or part of it, maybe. Maybe I'm not too... I think for along the X, like, probably like the forward vector would probably be the best thing. But, and then we feed that into launch velocity, and then after launches, it will just launch the player in, like, that given direction. That's basically how that works. So, back into the code, say, player, oh wait, get character movement, launch, yeah, it takes a launch velocity. So before doing that, what we want to get, or what I want to do, I want to add a... Is that an ad on my 5-hour video? Why? I've gotten a Voxy ad on YouTube.
Select your social apps in UK, T&Cs apply.
God, I need to find a different video now for best Leighton songs for studying. To be fair, I should have seen the first time when that video got an ad. Right, I found a 1-hour video instead. Why did this? Why does this song sound like Careless Whisper? Here, can you explain why this song from Professor Layton sounds like Careless Whisper? Am I gonna get flagged for copyright because it sounds like Careless Whisper at the start? Ah, God. Oh yeah, but anyway, as I was doing, uh... do that just in case as well. Oh yeah. Right. F vector eject launch force, and then game works, and your PC is perfectly fine. It's not exploding. But now I run Windows Defender. Yeah, good idea. Good idea. So I know that we have like that F vector there for the launch force, but I'm having this one made in the code locally so that I can actually multiply things properly. Because the way that an F vector 2D works is that it only has like an X and Y, whereas an F vector is just like a regular three-dimensional vector with an X, Y, and Z. The player moves up on the Z axis because Unreal's Y-axis is like the other like movement direction on like the ground. And the X is just, you know, what you'd expect. So F vector launch direction equals F vector, and I'm going to initialize it like this. I'm going to say previous input direction dot x times eject launch force dot x 0 eject launch force dot z. Not 0, Z! Oh, that... Whoops. I put another comma. That was my mistake. Anyway, so now we have the launch direction, which is based on two things. Based on the previous input direction, and also based on, well, where they're, based on the eject launch force, which can be configured in the editor. And now that that's all sorted, we can actually write in the launch method from the character movement, and then we're going to put in launch direction. So we know that, like, when the player is moving around in the mech, that these checks are being made, but I don't know yet, until we test it out, whether or not this functionality will actually work. But this is the reason why we're testing this now. Because if we can get this to work, then it's perfect. I mean, there'd still be the slight hindrance of, oh, they cannot currently move downwards because of, like, the collision from the mech, which, you know, that wouldn't take too much to sort out, but I'm still wanting to make that a priority. Oh yeah, so while I wait for this to compile, because I feel like this may take a little bit of time this time, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole lately, and I found out Just gonna try and grab my water bottle from over here because I put it so far out from my chair for some reason. But I found out, and I may be remembering this correctly or incorrectly, don't quote me on this. I watched a video that a guy did, because I recently watched a review of the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio, like, stop motion movie, which some of the shit that happens in that movie is insane. Like, wow. Crazy stuff. But, because I watched that review, I got sent down the rabbit hole of this one guy who made a video on every single Pinocchio movie ever conceived, whether that's animated, stop motion, live action, anything, or, like, mixed. I didn't realize there were so many Pinocchio movies. Like, so many attempts made at making Pinocchio movies by different companies. Including, of course, Disney. And, like the original Disney's Pinocchio is one of the most recognizable films from their vault. Like, from their catalog of films, like, the original Disney Pinocchio is probably one of their most recognizable ones. You know, despite the fact that the voice actor for Geppetto in that movie, because of the time it came out, was a Nazi sympathizer. But, you know, that's facts that I found out about it. And then, it was 2 years ago, I think, now. When, like, the whole year got that influx of, like, a couple of Pinocchio movies, including the Guillermo del Toro one, that one other Pinocchio movie that had that yassified Pinocchio that was like, Father, where can I leave? Where can I leave to be on my own? Like, like, that Pinocchio with that voice, because I remember everyone was making a meme of it at the time, because they were like, wait, yassified Pinocchio, Soleil! But, that movie, and also, Disney made a remake, a live-action remake of Pinocchio, and from what I hear, it was bad. I have not personally seen it, nor will I intend to see the live-action remake for Pinocchio, because, in my personal belief, none of the live-action Disney movies are good. I don't like them at all. Like, I saw, like, oh, whoops. Like, back in my first year of university, that was like 4 years ago, Jesus, I watched the live-action Lion King as part of, like, a film night that the accommodation team ran, and why? There's no soul in that. There's no soul in anything that was happening there. There's no expressions. Like, how can you tell that Simba is feeling emotion when stuff happens at the start of the movie? How can you tell what the other characters are thinking or feeling? Because there's no way to do that with live action, like, properly. Like, in that case for The Lion King. And I just basically ignore the live-action remakes for Disney movies because of that fact. Which, yeah. And they seem to be doing it more and more. Also, sorry I'm talking and ranting too long, because this code is taking some time to compile. And it likes to take its time sometimes, but this is taking a long time. So, you know, more time to compile means more time for me to yap and rant and become the king of Yapsville. But there's just... I'm trying to think, like, there's like, the whole... Like, the whole stuff, the whole spiel with, like, live-action remakes, the whole... Like... I've lost it. I've completely lost it. I had something in my head that I was gonna sort of jump off onto, but now I've just... It's just gone. It's just completely gone. But now, I'm gonna get rid of the other, like, drawing in Clip Studio because, I want to clear that out, because I already illustrated some of the points what I'm aiming to do with, like, bullets and the enemies and whatnot. But in terms of, like, the... like, behavior, I may as well sketch out what I would do in terms of behavior, because, you know, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have that plotted out. So, I'm gonna say... So, I'm gonna try and best replicate a behavior tree. So, we're gonna have the root of the behavior tree. And I'm gonna do this for the patrolling enemy, the back and forth one. So, patrolling... enemy... And this is just me tentatively planning this behavior tree out, because maybe it'll act like this, maybe it'll be structured like this, or maybe I'll structure this in an entirely different way. I'm not too sure yet, but at the very least, this is just me trying to figure some little bits out before I'm just, you know, tearing my own head, like my own brain apart, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. So... yeah, but anyway. Because I'm basically having, like, this back and forth patrol enemy shooting at the same time, this would be a good point to have a simple parallel. So, if you weren't here last time, or you don't remember what a simple parallel was, basically, a simple parallel in a behavior tree basically lets, like, two things happen at the same time. And, like, you could have it happen just simultaneously. And in this case, for the simple parallel for this enemy, I would have it do a sequence here. And this sequence would be, like, move to... move to patrol A. I would still have a wait node, but I may possibly sort of have the time weighted set to 0, because I may just have it, like, bounce back and forth, like, instantly like that, instead of just having it, like, go, wait a few seconds, and then go back, wait a few seconds, and then go back, wait a few seconds, and so on and so forth. So, move to B, and then sort of have the wait node there again. So that's what I'm planning on doing for the sequence. And then for the parallel, then I may make a custom task, because one thing I didn't get to explain during the previous stream for behavior trees and tasks and all that jazz is that... Wait a minute. Oh yeah, no. If you wanted, like, something, like, functionality outside of the regular stuff, like, outside of the standard stuff that's given to you by default with Unreal, then you can define your own custom behavior tree tasks, and then you can have those do what you need it to do, whether it's, like, spawn a bunch of projectiles, do some checks, like, that Unreal couldn't do on its own otherwise, or just, you know, just have anything happen that you may want to happen. You could just do that with a custom task. So, fire bullet, and it will just do that. So, And then I think, to go a bit deeper with this, because one thing I know I'm going to have on, like, if I was to go back over here and say we have, like, the standard enemy class, like, as I already said, they would have, like a bullet. Like, they'd have a... No. I never actually defined the actual enemy class. So, like, we'd have the, like, the base enemy class, then we'd have, like, troll, enemy, turret, and so on. So, we'd have that all sorted. And then... Think, yeah. Oh yeah, so patrol, turret, la-di-da-di-da, and regardless of whatever one we're using, we'd still have, like, in the base class, fire bullet. And then each of these would override the fire bullet method. Like, the fire bullet method would be empty, most likely, in the base class. Because the way I see this working best is if we have this be empty, so it's basically just a template at that point. And then in, like, each of these, we basically define what the fire bullet itself does. Like, kind of like how interfaces work, but completely different in that regard. So, like completely different. So, like, for example, in the patrol enemy, if I want that patrol enemy to be a spray and pray enemy, like, maybe for patrol enemies we could just have something completely, like, different subclasses of this, but for the sake of this game jam, I don't think we're going too far into that, which is good. So, I think for the sake of argument, I'll just say that the patrol enemy is literally the only, like, this is the only thing that it does. So we go there, and we say, for the fire bullet, for the fire bullet, we iterate through, like, different spawn points. And what do I mean by that? So if I wanted to have, like, the spray and pray-esque type of enemy, sort of, like, firing out bullets in, like, a spiral pattern, like I illustrated before, so if there's, like, that, and then that, and then that, and then there, and then there, and then there, and so on. I'm just illustrating these, like, further out, so it's like, oh, hey, like, this was the first one, this was second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and whatever. So you can see how it would work in theory. What I would do is, for the sake of making this simple, I would have, like, a spawn point there, a spawn point there, a spawn point there, a spawn point... Basically, have, like, a ring or a box of these spawn points around the enemy. And then whatever is... And then I think I would put these into an array, or a T array in Unreal, just so I can sort of iterate them, like, iterate through them properly. And then what happens when, like, fire is called, like, it will fire a bullet, and then there will be, like, a counter. So, say for example, array has spawn 1, spawn 2, spawn 3, and so on. So 4, 5, yeah. And then we have a counter, and I may have explained this before on the previous game dev stream, but I'll explain it again. For like arrays, lists, so on and so forth, like they work on a indexing system, And indexing for like all of them starts at 0. So we would have a counter that starts at 0, and then like whenever fire is called, like a bullet will be spawned there. And then after that's done, it will increment by 1 to 1, and then we move on to the next spawn point, fire, increment, move on to the next one, fire, increment, and so on and so forth. And it just goes around the list until we reach the end of the array. And there's a check that I normally do to say, oh, if this is like reached this value or this point, then we can just kind of move back to the start and have done with it. So that's how that's going to work in theory. For the spray and pray enemy, we're just going to have it move through each of these when firing to spawn the different bullets, and then once it loops back around to the first one again, it will just start from firing from the first one again, and so on and so forth, while this enemy is active. There may need to be something that I do in order to sort of prevent, like, object spawns from causing lag, because I feel like that is a potential risk. I feel like the potential risk with all of this is if I spawn too many objects too quickly, and because of that, the game just lags horribly. So I may want stuff to only happen when the player is, like, in range, and I may need to make this, like, a very sizable range. Or, if possible, try and connect things in a way so that there's like, oh, if the player enters a room where this enemy is, then they start moving around and they start firing bullets and they start doing things. And, like, I'm not too sure on how the specifics are going to function entirely, but having this outline for the basics, at the very least, is very helpful. Because then, at the very least, if I try and implement things the way they are, and I try and make changes, but those changes don't work, the very least, it's going to have that baseline there ready for me to go back to when I decide to fall back onto my original plans. So that's what I'm doing for that. This should be helpful, you know, get the job done and everything, so... Definitely take my important medical stuff though, because otherwise I'm going to forget in the midst of getting stuff done. And I feel like that's a bit of a problem that I need to work on. You know, remembering how to do things whilst getting on with this kind of work. All sorted. Right. It's still loading. Still loading. But yeah, having the system outlined, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Lets me focus on getting it done. So, you know, I have my bases covered. Okay, and now we can switch on back to the engine. There we go. Because what we were testing, or what we were going to sort of try and get on with, is launching the player. I'm hoping that this... Oh, wait, no. One thing I need to remember doing before I decide to test it and be like, oh no, it's not working, is I need to actually set the value for the launch force. So... I might have skipped this. Where is... Oh wait, no, it's not in the player, it's in the mech. I forgot. I forgot that this is being handled by the mech. So, eject launch force, gonna say... I'm gonna say 100. And then I'm gonna say 100 for the Z as well. And here's hoping this works, because... Okay, launch is working, but launch also doesn't stop. Okay. So... Right. Back to the drawing board on this, because that's weird. I think instead of launch, I'm going to use set velocity. And I think that's... Because I think that's actually what I ended up doing with the... Oh wait, I forgot to switch back to the code in OBS, but just do that now. Just because. But that's what I did for the air dash in the prototype. I decided to use launch. No, not launch. I decided to set the velocity instead of using launch because from what I found, or at the very least what I knew at the time, launch was being kind of unreliable for it. So, just gonna do this now as a temporary solution. Right. But then there's always a chance that this launches the... And I can't tell. Right, let's go onto the mech. Instead of that, let's say... Just for the sake of testing, let's say 1000. I'm gonna make sure to see if this is actually working definitively. Okay, this is working. This is working. Though I realize pressing Q when you're trying to, like, launch, like, the other way is a bit finicky. So I may change, like, the get in, get out button to something different so that it feels a bit less of a strain to try and do that. So I'm going to quickly player default, player's default mapping context, and I also get the next one out at the same time because... So instead of Q, let's say O. And then to also... oh wait, I wasn't showing this off again! I forgot! Right. It happened again. It happened again where I forgot to change the thing back to the editor. There we go. So I'm changing the input mapping context button for the, like, get in, get out, because otherwise this will just be awkward to press when you're trying to launch the other way. So the player will still emerge there. Although for some reason their foot is getting stuck, which is kind of weird. Yep. So I feel like, yeah. Right, this is working in terms of launching the player. Why will you not? That's... okay, I think my O key is having a little bit of a fit. That's concerning. Let's do something else. Let's say P. Use the P key instead, because I feel like maybe the O key is having a bit of a fit. Okay, so P. There we go. That's... right, so launching the player works, aside from, you know, launching them downwards diagonally, because... I need to edit how the collisions are working. But I can always do that outside of stream, because what I want to at least get done now is working on the enemy. So, one thing I'm going to quickly do is, because I know that this caused a problem the last time when I was trying to make classes and then sort of wait for the build tool to actually do things. I'm gonna close the engine, and then I'm gonna reopen it just like manually for the library rather than through the compiling code, because otherwise that's just gonna cause problems. So we're gonna get things done that way. God, I could just... I need to properly play through the Professor Layton games when I get the chance at some point. Like, I haven't finished Curious Village, which is sad because I own that on DS, and I just haven't finished it, and I really need to at some point. The engine should be open. There we go. Right. So that's not OBS. Right. What I'm wanting to add is I want to at least add the enemy class and then add the patrol enemy as, like, a child of that class. So, I don't know. It won't be a character, it will be a pawn. So, a enemy. No, not a enemy. It will be just the enemy, because it will assign the A to the enemy. But I do want it to be enemy, just for, like, the sake of consistency with the prefix. Because what I like doing with my naming convention for, like, most classes and scripts in Unreal is prefixing, like, the actual name with, like, a shortened version of the, like, the game's name, or the project's name, because it's not necessarily the game's name, but it is the, like, the name of the project file itself. And I'm hoping it doesn't take too long to compile, because when it's when it's making a class, it has to go through all the process of compiling the code as well, and then sometimes that takes time, and sometimes it just does it in an instant. So I'm just making sure that this is all sorted, just so that, you know, I don't cause things to crash. I think it's in the process, like, according to Ryder at the very least, it's in the process of binding the IntelliSense data. So, oh. There are some stuff that I, oh, and now it's just doing the live coding to actually, like, temporarily compile things. Unreal Engine has a system called live coding, which, this basically means you can, like, compile and, like, reload things on the fly rather than having to wait for things to do stuff. And that's perfectly fine and all, but it only does it temporarily, because if you were to close the engine, like, this project, and reopen it, that thing that I just made wouldn't be available in the editor for, like, the use in, like, blueprints and other things, like methods and whatnot. And the only way to do that is to properly close the project and compile from source, which is kind of annoying with how live coding works. Create C++ class derived from it, so rc underscore troll enemy. Oh, and sorry if you could hear me clicking my fingers, that was... Ugh. Yep, that was an instant, because it was only a derived class. Right. So, now that that's all sorted, close the editor, go back into Rider. I mean, first things I'm going to do, I'm going to actually compile from source so that it actually is working properly, that it's actually available in the editor, just in case I need to use it, and I did that too quickly. See, this is the problem I have sometimes. Sometimes, when I'm trying to get on with things, I jump into doing it too quickly, and because of that, you get errors like this, where it fails to compile, because it's like, oh, live coding is currently active, because, you know, the editor's open, and it's unable to build when... live coding is active. So what needs to be done is just waiting for it to sort of, you know, properly close, have all the processes stop, and then you're able to just do things. But, you know, it's just, you know, it's been a process of getting used to it over, like, the last, I'd say almost a year. In 2 months, it would have been a year since I started learning Unreal properly, which is crazy. crazy, crazy, considering the fact that the slight bit of history I... like, the slight bit of history I have with Unreal prior to, you know, beginning to learn it fully was using it for... some projects I had to do for certain modules at university where it was required to use Unreal and its features to make things. But yeah, the lecture I had at that point in time didn't make it fun to learn. They actively made it miserable for me to do it. So for the longest time, I just stuck with Unity, and then after the Unity fiasco last year, I decided, you know what, this is the time for me to finally learn how to use Unreal, and along with some other stuff that I was doing at the time, I've been steadily getting used to it, and I'm pretty happy with it so far. Although the compile times do kind of bog me down a little bit at times, but, you know, not the end of the world. It's not like the absolute worst thing ever. So, it's not all terrible. It's not all terrible. Right. So I've properly compiled now, and that's all sorted. So that's available for when I need it. But as I was outlining in my diagram that I drew in Clip Studio, if we could go back to that for a second, if we focus back on the enemy class here, we have the enemy class, the patrol, and la-di-da-di-da. But in the base class, we'll define Fire Bullet, you know, have that empty, and then we override it in the patrol class. So we're going to do that. Hold on. Okay, I was just thinking there for a moment. Yeah, I need to go back into Rider. Whoops. So yeah, enemy, right. So we're gonna make Fire Bullet a protected method, because for now I want to get this working. So virtual void Fire Bullet. And we don't need the override here, because at the moment, we're just making the base method. We're not overriding from anything. So we're just going to do that there. And then for now, that's all I really need to do for the enemy class. If I need to come back to this to do anything, then I'll just come back. But now in H, we're going to need... So protected. So public. So public, protected, private, and public. And eventually I'll get, you know, bullets sorted as well. But, to be fair, I should have sorted that out before I closed the engine. Oh well, never mind. In protected, in public, I want the constructor. So ARC _control enemy. Constructor is initialized. So that exists, because that's probably one of the most important things. And then Fire Bullet. We override Fire Bullet. So that exists now. Ah! No! I didn't mean to get rid of that. We need that to call the parent version of the method, so that otherwise, if we don't do that, it just won't work. So we're calling the parent version, even though this parent version doesn't have anything in it. It's just empty for the sake of it. But this happens now, and I will note that to do implement firing iteration across spawn points. So something I'm trying to remember. So if because I have notes for this somewhere, or by notes I mean a previous like course I was studying that kind of dealt with this kind of thing with like having points, but not like spawn points so much, but rather like points for something to move to. But it's a similar concept. It's a very similar concept, and that would exist within its player class. Yep. Oh, yep, no, found it. Right, so I need it to be edit defaults only for this one. And then I just make it a whole bunch of scene components. So I need 8 of these total. So in the private section, new scene component pointer bullet spawn score 1, and I'll just do this and duplicate it multiple times, but while I do this, rename them slightly for each individual instance so it's not causing any errors. Six, 7, and 8. And then I think for each individual one I have to actually, you know, like create the default sub-objects for this. So and then of course a T array of scene component pointers bullet spawn locations. And then also int bullet spawn index. So bullet spawn index, that will be the thing that if I go back into the diagram where I talked about like having the array like of all the spawn points and then having the index move along it whenever we fire a bullet. That's what we're using to sort of move from one spawn point to the next for when we're spawning the bullets. So just to clear that up, just so you know what we're doing here. So we have these spawn locations, we have the array, and then we have the spawn index. So now in the constructor, I need to do this for each individual bullet spawn. Create default subobject, use scene component, text, bullet spawn 1. And at the very least... Oh, I got rid of the... Whoops! But at the very least, one thing that I need... I might be wrong about this. At the very least, for the time being, in the actual, like, base enemy, I need a private section as well. Private, view, property, edit, anywhere, blueprint, read, write, no, rewrite, meta equals allow private access, and then we need a U static mesh component pointer. We call this mesh. And then in the base enemy constructor, we say mesh create default create default subobject, use static mesh, text, and then we say mesh set root component, and we're going to set it to the mesh. So at the very least, with the mesh set as the root component for the scene, for the object, that means that when we set the attachment for the bullet spawns, like I'm doing right now, so bullet spawn 1, set up attachment, and we set it to the root component, the attachment will be to that mesh, and not to like the default root component, because that default root component will be replaced by that mesh. So that's how that's working. And now I'm going to duplicate this 8 more times for, you know, the other bullet spawns. 7 more times, not 8 more times. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I need to go through and do this for each one. So 2, 2. I'll do the text bits like after I've done the variable renaming. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 8. And then I'm going to go through and do this. Right. There we go. That's all sorted. And then I need the begin play. I need the begin play. It's normally in protected. So protected. Not begin destroy. Begin play. Right. Okay. No. Right. And I'm trying to remember how the T array in the learning project that I was learning from actually initializes that, or how that T array is actually initialized. Somewhere in here. Yep, there we go. Okay, it's literally just add. Right. But I think I'll do this as its own method rather than just having it clog up the begin play. So protected, void, initialize, spawn locations. Just to keep this neat. And then, so bullet spawn locations dot add bullet spawn 1, and then I'll just do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 2. And that basically just adds them all to the array, which is useful for later. So, right. Initialize spawn locations. And there's something that I'm wanting to try and do here. Actually, so F timer handle next bullet wait handle, and then U property edit anywhere. True, and then this is going to be a float. Next bullet wait. So next bullet wait time. Basically, rather than just have like, oh, it's just going to go for the array in an instant when it's spawning these bullets, I want it to wait like briefly and then sort of oh, wait, no. Actually... right. I have a way of controlling it. So... B should stop firing. You know, actually, rather than this boolean be here, put this boolean in the base class as, I think, a protected. So, bool B should... No, I shall say B should fire instead, not B should stop firing. Because this probably makes a bit more sense. And then... force... Oh, force inline... bool get should fire... const, and then return B should fire. And that's how that works. That will just get whether or not it should fire, and that will be able to get it, like, within its child classes. So... I'll say before anything, if not... Oh, I can still... Okay, never mind. Then return. So if this is false, then we just don't fire this method at all. So... And this is why I realize, maybe I should have the bullet class made before I do this. So I'm going to quickly compile the code. Oh shit, I realized that the Professor Layton music's done now. Ah, I can't put on Kingdom Hearts music. I would love to just toil away at this, listening to Kingdom Hearts music, but you cannot like just have it there for people to listen to on Twitch because that's like against the terms for the copyright for for the Kingdom Hearts music, which kind of sucks, but it's understandable because that's the protection they have over it. So that's an ad again. And that ad's for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Why are there so many Planet of the Apes movies? Like, surely, like, there's been enough. It's crazy. You're a kid again playing Pokemon and it's raining outside, so it's basically Pokemon music but with a rain ambience. There we go, that's all compiled. And I'm gonna do what I did earlier again. Like, once the project opens up, I'm gonna close it and then open it again manually. Just because, you know, Unreal Build Tool decides to have a problem when I try to do that with this build tool currently running. So I'm gonna avoid that problem by doing what I did earlier. And it seemed to work out perfectly. So it is kind of funny though that any soul sound that is made, my little talkie person does respond to because of how the software works. So it's, well, it's a bit finicky. That's all I'll say. Like, I'm just tapping my foot on this on like the underside of where my setup is, and that sound is somehow loud enough to trigger the thing to do its talking motion, and sometimes loud enough to be picked up by the mic as well. So I should stop doing this. And it's almost done, thank God. One thing I am definitely concerned about for when it comes to the Destiny 2 Final Shape streams, when it comes to the day one raid race, is my energy during stream. That's the one thing I'm concerned about, because I'm gonna be so active with doing things during that stream, like doing the raid, trying to work out the encounters, getting frustrated over when things don't go right, and trying to get over one encounter for like an hour or a few hours, that it's going to be so mentally draining. But maybe in the end it's just a concern, it's not anything too like significant or major or severe. Maybe it won't be as bad as I'm thinking, because it's been 2 years since the last time I streamed a raid race, since like the Vow of the Disciple day one, which memories. But at the very least, not as bad as, well, day one Vault of Glass. That was an experience. And that was an experience that I turned into one of my first ever videos on YouTube. Like, one of my first ever proper videos. That I just put time into editing and doing stuff with. Oh yeah, the engine's open now, so I can now just close the engine from here. And then open it manually again. Right, there we go. I know there's probably no point in me opening the editor again because I'm going to be switching back to Rider once I get this made, but we need an actor here this time because we're making the bullet class, and we're just going to call it RC_bullet, and we're just going to get that actor all added. And this is the one thing I need to do. This is the one thing that I need to make sure that I do in order to be able to proceed like with this as best as I can. And for a second, I thought I was going to have to look up how to spawn objects again, because it's been a while since I've had to do anything concerning like creating and destroying objects on the fly. So I thought I was going to have to break out like the notes, but I think I've just about remembered. And then it's doing its live coding thing like it normally does. That didn't take too long to get onto the stage though, so I'm hoping that we're not left waiting too long to be able to get to work on this, though I am going to do what I did before again, where once the live coding side of things is done and I close the engine normally, I'm just going to run the compile from source just so it's there in the editor for when I need it in the editor. It is taking its time at the moment. But yeah, no, exciting shit happening at the start of next month with the final shape releasing and all the streams I do that week and everything else that happens afterwards. And hey, after that, I finally get freed up to do a playthrough that I promised a friend that I would be doing because it is their birthday round about that time of the month. And because of that, I promised I would run a playthrough of basically, it's just basically their all-time favorite game. And this is a game that I tried to play through 4 years ago, but never managed to get through it all because I just lost like the focus and motivation to do so at the time. So, you know, I'm gonna try and actually get through it this time, and streaming the playthrough is kind of an excuse, but I also want to just stream the game anyway, because from what I did play back then, it was pretty fun. Why is it taking so long? What is the need? Let me see. Doesn't say. I think, yeah, this is the one gripe that I still have with Unreal sometimes, and that's when it sometimes just takes so long to do anything. I may as well switch over back to Clip Studio while I wait for this to happen, because, you know. But what I want for each one is, or for each bullet, because I may as well walk through this while we wait. I probably won't actually be able to get, like, the AI side of things done before the end of the stream because of how long things take at times. And the live coding's done. Great. Speak of the devil, because, you know, yeah. But what I want is to... Oh, no, I don't want the pen. I want the pencil. Spawn... bullet. Then... wait. And then for it to spawn the bullet again. And in this case, I may... like, depending on how I get it working... No, actually, I won't actually need the timer handle and stuff, because I could just handle that on the... just handle that on the behavior tree side of things. With the simple parallel, I could just have that, like, wait. Like, I could just have it be a sequence, fire a bullet, and then wait. And then fire a bullet again, and then wait, and then fire a bullet again, and then wait. I could just have it work that way. I literally don't need it to happen like that in any way. So, patrol enemy.h, I don't need the handle or the wait time. I just need the bullet spawn index. Silly me, but hey, at least I found that out now before it was too late. Because if I found out when it was too late, I would have had to have gone through changing so much and being like, oh, yeah, we're getting rid of this now, we're getting rid of that, we're getting rid of so much of what I've written just for the sake of making something a bit more efficient. But yeah, also crazy stuff. So if anyone has been keeping up with any of the goings on within like the past few weeks, then you know that there's been the whole like Helldivers fiasco with Sony forcing the PSN account stuff to be able to play the game, banning the game from being purchased in 180 regions, like 180 countries, which is so fucking ridiculous, including Japan, which, like, how does that even work? Then them saying, oh, we're not going to push this change, and then they're saying, oh, surprise, we're actually pushing it, la-di-da-di-da, and they're trying to blame Steam when no, it's Sony pushing their blame onto someone else. And now, apparently, Sony Interactive Entertainment is replacing the boss Jim Ryan with two new CEOs. One for the CEO of studios and another for the CEO of platforms. Both reporting to the company's chairman. Which is crazy? I don't know if this means anything good or anything bad, because I don't know either of the replacements' track records with anything, but it's just that changes are happening. And I'm assuming in response to everything that's just been happening lately with all the Helldivers and Ghosts of Tsushima stuff. Right. So if I go into RC_enemy, go into private, and say view property, edit anywhere, blueprint read write, meta, allow private access is true, and then I'm going to say U T subclass of class. Oh wait, no. Class ARC_bullet. Just so I have that board declared up there, and then I'll say bullet to fire. Though I don't know if I can actually get this when I do things in there. So if I go into here, fire bullet, so get world spawn actor it's gonna say, can I do this? Bullet spawn locations, at position, spawn index. Yeah, no, it won't let me. I also realized that I forgot to switch back to... Whoops. It keeps happening! Right, but anyway, I'm trying to spawn the actor. I'm assuming because this variable is private, that I can't do anything with this. So I'm gonna say, move it to the top of the protected method. Protected section, and then bullet to fire is there instead. And then down here, what's going on? No viable function, arc bullet, candidates considered. That spawns some subclass array. Oh, wait, I forgot. Oh, yeah, then I need the, right, so, bullet spawn, locations, position, bullet spawn, index, dot, location? Get component. Yeah, return the location of component in world space. Bullet spawn locations at bullet spawn index. Dot get component rotation. There we go, that works. And then after that's done, increment the bullet spawn index. If bullet spawn index is greater than or equal to bullet spawn locations dot num. So we're checking to see if like our index thing is greater than the number of spawn locations in the array, because if you can remember, so I'll go back into Clip Studio for this. As I said, indexing for an array starts at 0 and will increment by 1 for like each additional entry. So for the array that we have in the code, it will range, the indexing will range from 0 to 7. So 0 being the first, 7 being the last one. When we get to 7, or when we get past 7, if we try to access the array at that index, then it will crash, because that object just doesn't exist. That entry doesn't exist, it can't exist, because the array isn't that long. So what we need to do is when we get past 7, so when we get to 8, or somehow higher, which won't happen, but this is just a check just in case, we reset bullet spawn index to 0. Just so that it resets. And that's basically all there is to it for this method. And in terms of like bullet damage or stuff like that, I will sort that out probably outside of stream when I'm working on stuff tomorrow. Especially considering the fact that there will need to be more things for this. But yeah, in terms of that side of things for spawning the actual bullet, that works. We've gotten that implemented, and hopefully it shouldn't throw so much of a tantrum. Oh, God damn it! I realized. I just realized the one thing I need to do for this method, or just the base method. Oh, so upset. Right. The one thing I'm missing to be able to actually call it from the behavior tree is I need to make it blueprint callable. At the very least, that compiled. I'm gonna quickly go here, and then in Rider, add U function to this, say blueprint callable, just so we can actually call this from blueprints. Because we need this so we can call it from the behavior tree, because the behavior tree tasks are just blueprints in themselves, essentially. There we go. Right. At the very least, before stream ends, I will be able to actually delve a little bit into doing the AI bit. Or the behavior tree stuff for the AI. So, at the very least, we can get a start on that. So, let's see. Blueprints, input mapping, and then I'll make a folder. So, enemy, let's go AI. Call this just say controller, though I need the actual enemy controller stuff and all that jazz all set up in the code as well. But I can do that after stream, I can do that tomorrow. But at the very least, I want to get the behavior trees sorted out. So artificial intelligence, behavior tree, BT underscore control enemy. And then blackboard, BB underscore control enemy. So BT patrol enemy and blackboard patrol enemy are both there. So as I illustrated in Clip Studio, like I'm still zoomed in here. If you can see here, I was going to say the root and the parallel, and then we're going to have like the sequence here where they move from point A to point B, and then fire bullet, which is just, you know, firing the bullet. And because of how that works, I may be able to make this task a bit of an agnostic one, so that it will be able to be used by not just this enemy, but also like the other enemy type that I will be working on eventually. Just so, you know, I don't have to write a whole bunch of new stuff out. I can reuse code and reuse it in a way that's efficient. So, more on that in a bit, but simple parallel. So the main task for the simple parallel will be the sequence. Wait, I don't think it's actually possible to... Oh, that's a task node, right. So, still the same logic, except I just have to put the sequence over here. The main task will just be the fire bullet. So, sequence, and then the blackboard, new key, vector, control point 1, and then add a second vector key, control point 2, and then go back into the behavior tree, move to, I'm going to rename this node, so roll, control point 1, wait, and I'm probably, and as I said earlier, I'm going to say wait time is 0, just so it instantly bounces back the other way. And then move to Patrol point 2, whoops. And then wait for 0 seconds. And then that's the patrol basically done. Like, as like illustrated on last stream when I was doing this for like a test enemy. It's simple. It's very simple. And then I need to make a new behavior tree task. Wait, I'll cancel that. And then go into the folder enemy AI. So behavior tree tasks, BT underscore decorators. And then there's also service, so BT underscore service. So, just for the sake of having behavior tree tasks, services, and decorators in their own folder, I should rename that to services and not service. Right. New task. In the behavior tree tasks, BTT underscore fire bullet. Right. And right here, we just have like the event graph, just like all other blueprints. This is what like a behavior tree task is basically. It's just another blueprint. So, event, receive, execute AI. So what I want here is to cast this to RC underscore enemy, and as the enemy, I mean, I may be doing this a bit wrong here. I may need to actually cast this to like a blueprint version of the enemy class, but I'm going to say fire bullet. And then delay, because then I can do that. Have it delay for like 0.2 seconds perhaps. And then finish execute. And then say it succeeded. So this is relatively simple for a custom behavior tree task. We basically, through receive execute AI, we get both like the controller that owns the behavior tree and also the pawn that it's controlling. We're casting it to the enemy. We're calling fire bullet because we set it to be blueprint callable. And then after it's done that, we delay it and then finish executing the task, at which point it will just do this again. And just again and again and again while it's moving. Later down the line, I may change it so that this only happens when like the player is in range, as I said. Though for now, for the sake of making sure this works, eventually, this works. This is good. Whew, my voice is getting a little bit strained. So, is that an ad?
That's the sound of Highland's intelligent content.
I don't care! But, yeah, my voice is getting a little bit strained, so I'm going to end things right there. To everyone who showed up, to everyone watching things back on the VOD, whether you watched it here on Twitch or on YouTube, thank you ever so much for showing up to stream. I really appreciate it, and it was nice going through this process with you and also explaining things here or there or breaking down my thought process for how I was going to handle things. It kind of helped. It helped a lot to reaffirm some of the ideas I had or to reevaluate some things that I was going to attempt to do, depending on whether or not it was feasible. it was very helpful to kind of do that. Next stream will of course be Wednesday, same time, same DS Tales channel, but in terms of what I stream, I'm not too sure yet. I may choose to do this again because, you know, it's nice to have a little bit of consistency with the game dev stuff, and also it's stuff to do in the meantime until, you know, the Destiny 2 Final Shape releases, and after all of that happens, being able to, you know, do my next playthrough and all that jazz. But at some point, I do want to play Hades 2. I've got the game, I bought it for early access, and I want to start playing that because I loved Hades 1, love the hell out of that game, and I want to jump into Hades 2. And I'm holding off on playing it until, you know, I get to stream it. So maybe on Wednesday, maybe on Friday, maybe on Friday, but on Wednesday I'll be doing this again because it has been very helpful in keeping me productive with this and exploring more of this stuff. So thank you ever so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and as always, I will see you all again in the very next stream. Bye bye.